Welcome to Crash Course World History. Today's episode is on censorship.
Today we will discuss the history of censorship and how it has evolved over time to affect us in the modern world today. Before we begin, let's discuss the AP World History exam.
On the multiple choice, there are many questions about. To start off with, censorship is the suppression of any books, films, or news that are considered obscene or politically unacceptable to society.
Now, let's begin with the origin of censorship.
Some of the earliest forms of censorship began in the late 300s, when Socrates was sentenced to drink poison for recognizing unorthodox divinities.
I have a question.
Yes, Drake?
So why did they want Socrates to drink poison?
Well, most of the issues this world faces stems from religion, and censorship is no different. Men like Socrates began to develop ideas that went against the Catholic Church and undermined their superiority. He was also accused of corrupting the youth.
Free speech implies the freedom of expression of one's thoughts. This was a challenge for many pre-Christian rulers. To fend off heretical threats to the Christian doctrine, many church leaders introduced helpful measures.
This caused censorship to become more rigid and punishment more severe.
The invention of the printing press in Europe in the mid-15th century increased the need for censorship. It aided the Protestant Reformation and those labeled heretics, such as Martin Luther. Okay, bye.
The Catholic Church controlled all opposition by controlling all publications and universities.
The Church decreed in 1543 that no book could be printed or sold without the permission of the Church.
The Peruvian Inquisition system was a Spanish blueprint for controlling all books that came in. The inquisitional officers often inspected luggage and ships that came into their ports, and they inspected libraries.
The burning of the Maya codices in the 16th century remains one of the worst criminal acts committed against a people and their cultural heritage.
Postal services were also important in the censorship of mail in many countries. In the British Empire in the early 20th century, they used censorship of mail.
Even today, postal services are an important tool in censorship, especially in countries where the import of prohibited literature, magazines, and film is regulated.
Sweden was the first country to abolish censorship. And then in 1776, they created a new law guaranteeing freedom of the press. Then, in 1777, Denmark-Norway followed.
In Nazi Germany, they put places like Norway under strict censorship, and they made things like listening to foreign radio, reading or disseminating illegal newspapers punishable by death. Today, the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States guarantees freedom of speech and the press.
Well, although censorship lost ground as the most frequently used legal instrument in Europe after the 18th century, many governments maintain laws curbing freedom of expression.
The reason many countries use censorship is to control what is being said and to make themselves look better.
In China, for example, it is found that they are often open to criticism, but when they find out that a group of people are organizing to protest or make a statement, they often suppress it right away.
Countries who use censorship do not want to be weakened by a group of people. It's time to talk about Russia.
Russia is a land of extremes when it comes to censorship. Just in 2006, they killed the reporter and activist for independent journalism.
The USSR established in 1922 the Glavit, which covered the USSR and all Soviet-controlled countries, purging them of any expression that was deemed to disrupt society.
The Glavit has also banned many books from bookstores and taken them off their shelves.
More recently, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has defended China's extreme censorship, stating that the internet cannot be a place of freedom.
Any online servers in Russia must be based in Moscow so that they can easily censor and monitor any unwanted data.
Putin believes the internet was an invention created by the US CIA, and he hopes to create something similar to Google but for Russian use.
And now on to the Red Dragon.
The land of 1.3 billion people.
They account for over 30% of the world's rice production.
They have more fortune cookies than I can count.
They have pretty cool hats.
China! Censorship began in China when the Qin dynasty unified China and the emperor oversaw the burning of many Confucian texts in 213 BCE.
Ever since then, the Chinese government has valued the science of censorship and have continued to use it.
Today, technology called the Great Firewall Get it? It's like the Great Wall of China, except blocks any websites that deal with certain topics such as democracy.
In China, they have tens of thousands of monitors regularly sweeping through blogs, chat forums, and emails to ensure that no unwanted content gets out.
Any information offered by Chinese media is not free, but has been carefully filtered and approved by the Chinese government.
China imposes ideological control over its citizens, making them ideological slaves.
Like all slaves throughout history, those in China can and will rebel because they know their knowledge is being restricted. And now, the United States. USA! USA! USA!
The First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
As Americans, we often pride ourselves in the First Amendment, which we consider the base of liberty here in the U.S.
But is our freedom of speech and publication really as secure as we think?
Throughout the history of the U.S., books, films, plays, newspapers, and other media have been banned and censored in the U.S., and the limits are still prevalent today.
The Comstock Law added censorship through the mail by banning all material that seemed obscene.
The government has also censored the press during various points in history. During World War I, many anti-war journalists were arrested because they were considered a threat to national security.
Contemporary censorship is not enacted by the government, but instead larger corporations. Instead of banning materials, the U.S. just limits their distribution.
Now, let's cut to camera 2. Hello, camera 2. They do this by limiting access in schools and libraries. For example, the novel To Kill a Mockingbird is banned in many schools.
Now let's cut to camera 3. The internet has become a new avenue for censorship. Corporations like YouTube and Facebook have created new obscenity regulations for their shared content.
In the U.S., formal censorship has never existed, but liberal laws containing a false statement that could injure someone's reputation, could sometimes serve the same purpose.
Thus, the American courts have become the testing ground for free expression.
Anytime our access to books, articles, music, movies, or any other type of media are restricted, whether by the government or Facebook, we lose out on some truth or understanding.
In North Korea, our boy, Kim Jae-dog-un, recently had his uncle, Jang, executed and removed from all state media. They also had him vilified as a dog.
Also, in North Korea, all media is state-owned and governed by the Central Korean News Agency.
Anyone accused of speaking about news from another country that is considered North Korea's enemy will receive very harsh punishment.
North Korea has also created their own software and cell phones in order to have strict control over what is being said.
This strict control over cell phones in North Korea has caused an increase in the black market and people buying cell phones from China.
Also, anyone accused of listening to foreign radio will be sentenced to 10 years of re-education at a prison that mostly resembles a concentration camp.
These re-education camps tortures and confines their prisoners and treats them like animals. Most of the times, the crimes these prisoners committed do not even compare to the punishment they receive.
In Iran.
You instead of Iran, do you mean Iran? Like, you know, like the song, I ran so far away. That song, you know, like, it's pretty popular.
No, not like the song, like the country. They have one of the most sophisticated internet censorships out there. They often set up mock websites and jam satellite signals.
Not to mention, there are millions of websites blocked. And most of these websites that are blocked have to do with art, society, and news.
With so many websites being blocked, Iranians have begun to download software such as Freegate or Your Freedom in order to bypass these blocked websites.
In Eritrea, a country in northeastern Africa, it is claimed to be one of the most censored countries in the world.
They have one state-controlled newspaper and television channel for 6 million people. They cannot speak out against their government, and they cannot choose their jobs.
People in this country are forced to work for the military their whole life, and people who try to flee are often caught and then tortured.
Only 6% of the population have cell phones, And many underground organizations attempt to increase freedom by putting up posters in the middle of the night to show their opposition.
Many of the most censored countries in the world have a heavy population of people with mental disorders.
China is ranked overall with the highest number of people that suffer from anxiety, depression, and drug and alcohol abuse. India comes in at a close second.
Most of the countries ranked high on this list are very suppressed and censored.
When people are not allowed to express themselves in any way, they often become bored with their daily lives. Also, when people live under a strict authoritarian government, they live in the constant stress of being imprisoned by their government.
Living under such a tense and dull society can cause a person to become stressed or even depressed, which causes a high increase of mental disorders.
Another issue that arises with censorship is an uneducated society. Being constantly fed censored news hinders a society's ability to grasp what is true. They simply believe everything they are told.
Wherever fear dominates, happiness will vanish, judgments will become distorted, and rationality will slip away.
And now, an open letter to censorship.
Dear censorship, you keep people from knowing what they want to know. The more you censor, the more people want to know. Maybe you should consider lightening up a little bit. I wish my teachers did that, except you, Miss Yulberg. How does it feel being one of Kim Jong-un's, Vladimir Putin's, and Adolf Hitler's best friends?
You have killed millions throughout history and have literally shaped the lives of us humans. You definitely have a love-hate relationship with the government loving you and the people hating you. You and the government should definitely get married soon. Best wishes, Draco Nishi.
And Grace Larry.
And now, time for the secret compartment. A censorship bar. We have discussed how censorship has evolved to affect the modern world. It seems pretty rough. So how on earth could we possibly solve it?
One of the main issues in law and technology now is the extent from which it is possible to exclude people from information and knowledge.
Some censorship is necessary, such as censorship that protects against threats to national security.
The problem with censorship is finding a perfect balance between what is censored and what is not.
So who decides what the perfect balance is? Well, ideally the people of the world should, like in a democracy.
This deals largely with who should have power, so it is a political issue.
The solution lies with one's political views, so it'll be different for everyone. The solution will never satisfy everyone, so we must attempt to satisfy the majority.
One way to help slow down censorship would be for major companies like Google and Facebook to not conform to China's and Russia's political views.
Instead, major corporations should deny going to countries where they must conform to censorship laws.
Major corporations must not simply allow censorship, but people as a whole should not allow it to be accepted.
People who are under strict censorship should protest and take a stand for each other. Although they may not change much for themselves, they'll be setting a path for future generations to follow in order to slowly lessen censorship over time.
Protesters should also attempt to create a public spotlight and help raise awareness for censorship. They should also use tools like social media and the internet to help gain support.
I know they're censored, but they should try any means possible. Leaving the country to post about it, writing a physical letter to someone outside the country to post about it, having international organizations create more regulations on censorship, the options are endless. Through protests, organizations can be formed, awareness can be raised, and we can slowly begin to start fixing the problems that censorship has created throughout our history.
I am Grace Larry.
I'm Draco Nishi.
Thank you for watching Crash Course World History.
Were we supposed to slide?